My name is Sofia Lekka Angelopoulou, editor at designboom magazine, and I am very happy to welcome on stage two of Asia's leading talents for a conversation around conscious design. To my left, I have Otto, design director of LAAB, a laboratory for art and architecture based in Hong Kong with a global clientele. And opposite of me, I have Joyce Wang, founder of her eponymous studio, Joyce Wang Studio. And I would like to start the conversation with delving a little bit more into your backgrounds and how these have shaped your creative principles and your studio's processes. So Otto, maybe you would like to start first.
So bonjour everyone. My name is Otto. I am the design director and co-founder of LAAB Architects. So to talk about my background, I used to go to MIT, which is the same school as Joyce.
MIT.
So it's a university in the United States which has a strong focus on scientific and technological research, hopefully to create innovation and advancement for the positive impact on humanity. So a lot of times, I have to focus on different types of research, and this research can happen at many different scales. It can be as big as blanketing a desert with solar harvesting technology like canopies, and then we have to go into very tiny details, such as every gears, screws, sensors that can allow this canopy to transform and harvest the maximum solar energy. So all these things has inspired me to really look at designs, look at social issues at many different scales. And at the same time, I was also working for the MIT Sensible City Lab, which is a laboratory focusing on creating a real-time city. So we spend a lot of effort on small things like sensors, electronics. For example, we designed a bicycle called the Copenhagen Wheel. We actually not designed the bicycle, but the wheel of it. So we embed different sensors, actuators, batteries, and so on, hopefully to turn this any bicycle into a smart bicycle, which can help you run very quickly in the city and also survey the city data to create a big datascape. And so, behind the scenes, there are a lot of people working together. So there are scientists, engineers, designers, architects, as well as economists and sociologists. And all of us together have to work very collaboratively, bring together different perspectives on cultures and also different technical skills. And this is very important for me because I actually founded this company together with my partners based on this spirit. So we have a collective of engineers, architects, designers, including interior designers, product designers, furniture designers, as well as graphic designer, as well as sociologists, which offers as a humanity perspective into our project. So these enable us to have been working on many different types of projects, including architecture, interior designs, art installations, and as well as innovations that are related to social and cultural changes. So and of course we are very interested in sustainability and trying to embed the spirit of sustainability in many of our work. Yeah. So I also think that we have a very strong maker spirit. So we make different things in our studio. So oftentimes you can see that our work are kind of transforming, or it has some mechanical movement that can change, that can transform and create different types of experience, not only as a still image, but actually as a animating experience. So, and behind the scenes, we also have a fabrication lab. So the fabrication lab in the studio allows us to test and prototypes a lot of things to understand how things can be put together, how things can be made, and that actually inform how we do our design. It's a process of what we call the design through making, which is very popular at MIT, not only in the architecture school, but many different departments. So we think that the use of your brain and your hands are equally important, and we try to use both in all our projects. And that help us to make like interior projects, architecture projects, or really big interior projects that also have this kind of little details. For example, this is K11 you see on the screen. We made 700 pieces of different curvature pieces and put them together to create that atrium designs. So yeah, so that's a fabrication lab. You can see that people working in the lab, making things, doing different things. And then we also have next door our cafe space, which is a cafe, a gallery space that enable people to come together and to connect people with coffee, architecture, and art. So at the end of the day, we think that we have to offer some transparency to the public to see what architects and makers and designers actually doing in the studio. And because of that, the public can have a better understanding of art, better understanding of architecture, and so they can understand the power that design can enable us to make positive changes to the society. And yeah, that's the cafe, and you will see the studio part as well.
And thank you so much, Otto. And Joyce, over to you, if you can share a few words about your...
Sure. Thank you so much for having me here today, everyone. I'm very honored to be here. I'm the founder and principal of Joyce Wang Studio. We're 10 people strong in the London studio and also the Hong Kong studio. We specialize in hospitality design in the luxury sector. So working with brands such as Equinox Hotel, this is actually their flagship hotel that really puts wellness at the forefront of the hospitality experience. What I mean with that, with the conscious design title in mind, is upon check-in, your concierge is already aware of what you're training for. Should it be the Tokyo Marathon, they would have really tapped into your Equinox training and then curate your whole hotel stay experience to be part of this club. So it's 20,000 square foot in Hudson Yards in New York. And for us, this was a really milestone project, definitive of conscious design and how do you really maximize your performance when you're traveling? If you're feeling jet lagged, what is the most efficient way of going to the meeting and feeling like, hey, I'm ready for this? So some of the details and the materials that we use also, I think to Otto's point, I studied material science at MIT, and bringing in that understanding of materiality into our projects is really important. And I think it comes also in your hand testing materials. You know, for example, in Hudson Yards, you know, what are some of the materiality like reclaimed timber that we've used within the spaces, metal sheets, for example, that we've salvaged. So there are many different aspects that we can try to bring in this idea of sustainability. But I think the more important thing for me in this project is you're living consciously and that you're consciously aware of how you're optimizing your well-being. So in the traditional sense of a spa treatment, they're usually very long, but with the Equinox model, they've actually truncated that experience to 10 minutes. And we're designing very specific spaces to accommodate those experiences that previously were not, you know, it's a new typology. So that's been a very exciting project for us. And then this project here is a heritage building in Hong Kong. It was actually left dormant for 50 years. It was the magistrate's court. This is where the prisoners of Hong Kong and the different social classes used to come together and be tried in this space here. And I think what is incredible is in Hong Kong you don't get to occupy, in as much as it is a concrete jungle and there's a lot of tropical foliage. I think this is one of the only spaces in central Hong Kong where people willingly want to sit outside in the humidity because we do have those plants and everything. But I want to point to this photo and that tapestry in the background. This is by a French tapestry maker, Pinton. They're third-generation tapestry weavers, and we've, from this first project, actually worked with them. And conscious design, I want to say, is also very much reliant on not only the people sitting in the team, but also the people that we work with, that we rely on to create these moments. This is a photograph of the magistracy as taken from Queen's Road Central in Hong Kong. And to be able to utilize a craft that's dwindling in France to recreate this really holds meaning in the space that was left vacant for so many years. It means really generations. I'm hoping my grandmother will go, with my kids, and she'll be able to say, hey, this is what my city used to look like. And I think there's a lot of meaning in that, and not to mention you'll see kind of the grills all around the space, the air conditioning grills. They used to be naturally air ventilated. There's so many examples here that even though it's a traditional sort of interior design, there's quite a few forward-looking aspects that help ventilate the space.
Is this part of the same space?
This is actually Karna. So this is a restaurant that also opened in Hong Kong recently. It's really hinged on the idea of spirituality. And it's a restaurant by Chef Dario Cecchini, who is a very acclaimed butcher. He's very passionate about his process of curating his dishes. And then to that, we design an interior that really speaks to humility, the choice of materials, being authentic, I think, also to Italy. How do we recreate in that language in Hong Kong responsibly as well? So a stained glass that we worked on in Shanghai and China, that celebrates the three different feast. So there's the gathering, the harvesting, and then the feasting. So the idea is people come into the restaurant, they can really understand the narrative, and every time they come to the restaurant, they can understand a different aspect of it. And I think to that, there's sustainability in of itself, because people want to come more, and by nature of them wanting to come more, it's a more commercially viable interior. That's what we want.
Durable.
Yeah. That's what we want to do. In as much as we want to design beautiful spaces, it's more important that it's commercially viable. Otherwise, specifying those materials, all of this effort doesn't make sense. So the first thing we try to think about more and more is, can we make the client successful? Yeah.
I mean, also when we talk about conscious design, of course, our mind goes to sustainability first, but that is also tied to other aspects, like, for example, timelessness, or when you create a space that people can actually engage with and experience in different senses, in different ways, than just having a nice and pretty interior. But going back to the idea of conscious design, and as it is a quite broad term, I wanted to ask what it means to you and how you actually integrate those principles in your projects, and whether that varies when it comes to different scales. So when you do, for example, a product design or an interior or a bigger project, a bigger architectural project, how these principles may vary and how you design with that in mind. Otto, I don't know.
So I think, first of all, for conscious design, to me, is a design understanding of your users. So when we start a project, we always have to ask who are the people, who are the living things actually using the space. So they may be your client, they may be other end users. So we have to really understand who actually use the space. So for different types of projects, like, for example, we are showing a public toilet project in Hong Kong. We're trying to create a wellness and hospitality experience for a government public toilet. This is actually quite important, because when we're talking about public toilet, it doesn't have to be it shouldn't be a very dirty space. It should not be. It should be a space that can actually integrate the experience of culture, experience of the nature of the park outside. So in a lot of our designs, we try to bring in the understanding of the people, the nature, the surroundings around it, because most of our designs are very contextual. We have to really give a very clear understanding of everything before we start the project, and create a project that is meaningful to the site context itself. So for architecture, whether it's an architecture project or an interior project, we have to understand how people actually use the space inside. And for example, this is a home project, an apartment project that we designed for a client during the COVID. So in COVID, the city is locked down and you cannot travel anymore. So he's seeking a space where he and his friends and family can gather and can not only socialize, but also a space for them to find the inner self so that they can take a break from work. They cannot travel anymore, but they want a space that they can feel that they're out of the town, they are out of the work, they are out of the troubles that they're facing in daily life. So in the design, we spend a lot of time understanding how it actually works with the site and how to create that effect. And similarly, for a workplace project, it's also designed and built in during the COVID time. So we make the space very multifunctional. It's a space for work, for gathering, and also for wellness, for yoga. So this is for a Good Notes app, Office, which is a note-taking app that you can find on any smartphones and tablets. And the team behind worked very, very hard to deliver it to the world. And that's why we have to understand the habits before designing the space. And I think not only human, but we also have to design for other living things. For example, dogs, cats, trees, and other animals. In this particular project, we designed for the dogs, for the stray dogs. The stray dogs came from new developments in Hong Kong, which they no longer belong to the village, and so they have to be taken care of by this dog shelter. And in order to understand the dog, we do a lot of research, and we came to understand that they actually need privacy between the dogs. They don't actually want to socialize too much, so we give them like walls of glass tile, of glass block to allow some privacy between them.
So just a quick side question. When you do research for human-based projects, it's quite easy. You ask people, you know their behaviors. How do you do that with other living beings, like animals or plants?
Yeah, so we have to, like for dogs and cats, we have to talk a lot to the dog owners and cat owners, as well as like the shelter, the people who manage the shelter, they're professional people. And then we also do a lot of research. So I think in the next slides, you can see actually a diagram talking about the vision spectrum of human and dogs. So actually, dogs can only see yellow and blue, while we have a spectrum of rainbow colors. So we actually designed this space with the choice of yellow, because the yellow will make the dogs happier. and also, we also create small windows. I think in the next slide, you can see the windows at the latitude of the dogs. So to make sure that the dogs don't feel so locked inside, because they have a window to see the outside. Yeah, so we and then in other apartments, like a transformable apartment that we did for 300 square feet space, we designed a lot of cat amenities for the free cats. So we at that time I didn't have a cat. Now our office have free cats. So I actually have to go to a cat cafe to understand the cat behaviors while designing this. And then surprisingly, a lot of these systems actually work very well, and the cats really love them, and so they actually enjoy living in this apartment.
And this is also part of a park for...
Yeah, so it's a dog garden that we also designed for a shopping mall. Yeah. Nowadays in Hong Kong, there's actually a trend of allowing people to bring their dogs even to the interior and also some public spaces. So a lot of dog-friendly spaces are being created in Hong Kong. So while designing this space, we have to understand not only the dogs but also the people, because not everyone can work with the pets well. So we have to make sure there are zones that are dog-friendly, but zones that are not. So to make sure that everyone is feeling comfortable in these spaces. And then in these spaces, we also have nature. So we have to understand how we can have the architecture, the interior, and the nature being put together in a harmonious way. For example, this is a nature discovery park in the same shopping mall that we designed. And in this space, we are creating hydroponic farms, we're creating outdoor farms, and we're creating a farm-to-table experience. But at the same time, it can also have many different types of events, especially a lot of brands and organizations love to have this events on sustainability to happen here. Because this is a space dedicated to actually conscious design, how we understand our planet, our humanity, our community better in this space by having like different types of activities, from what I talk about the farm-to-table dining experience to art jamming or to understanding butterflies with a butterfly garden. So we actually put a lot of citrus fruit in the butterfly garden, which attract a lot of butterfly here. It's actually a very interesting story that Hong Kong has the largest diversity of butterfly as a city. As a small city, we have the largest collection of butterfly species, and even in the downtown, we have a lot of butterflies. That's why we create a garden for butterfly.
Thank you. And Joyce, you already touched upon a little bit on how you integrate conscious design principles such as materiality or maybe historical elements that are being repurposed. But I don't know if you maybe want to expand a little bit more on what conscious design means to you and how you use it as a principle in your projects.
Sure. I think being from Hong Kong, I've had so many heartbreaks of interior spaces being done and then ripped apart the next year. So I find my job to be more and more, I want to be spending more time actually before I even put pen to paper, even before I start designing, to actually work with the client and find the right collaborators and clients to work with. Do they have the right brief? Do they have experience actually executing the vision that they have? Because we want to build spaces that last. And really there's only meaning in the decisions that we make if the spaces do live beyond. And of course, we do design pop-up spaces. We do design short sort of spaces. But I think there's also... you can consciously design short-stay environments versus long-stay environments and approach them differently. This is a project in London, Whiteley, at the Six Senses residence. And what is incredible about this project is this is going to be somebody's home. And for me, conscious design also means propagating the life of other interesting designs, other interesting techniques. So we were able to luckily showcase a few emerging talents and local artisans in this massive project. It's an incredible building in Queensway.
This is
a Foster and Partners designed they've reinvigorated the facade, and then all of the units behind will be private residences. So we've been commissioned to look at the show residents, and for that we've been able to work with artists and also some local artisans, whether it be wall coverings and paint work, commissioning custom furniture from them. And then specifically, actually, some of the pieces are also antiques. So we've been able to mix and match these pieces as well.
Thank you. Then I actually wanted to delve a little bit more into the idea of locality and how that plays into conscious design, whether you're interested or influenced by local cultures or by memory or practices and techniques of craftspeople that are part of the project location, or if you repurpose materials in any certain way in your projects that kind of play into the idea of conscious design. Otto, I think this is a project that you did in Japan, right?
So this is a project that we did in Japan. It's in Ichigo Shimari Art Field. It is a big public outdoor museum in Japan, 1 hour away from Tokyo, in the north of Tokyo. And so we are designing an art gallery and artist residence in a different context. So this is this is the architecture that we built in this rural neighborhood. So, local culture and local materials are very important to us, because every project that we did, we we did with very strong consciousness of the locals. So when we design this and build this, we work very closely with the local architects and local craftsmen to actually extensively use different types of local materials. So we have to learn about what materials we can use and how to put them together with the local crafts that are available in the region. So instead of building something very Hong Kong, we're designed to build very much the same as the locals. And then we try to learn from the craftsmen and try to learn the ways that how they make it. So this is also the first building that we built in a region that have snow. So we actually also designed the roof at such an angle that can help it survive throughout the snowy seasons. So in the design, we also try to exhibit the local nature. So there are small windows on the left show the local nature, and on the right is actually the window to the artist's residence to show how the artists actually work at this home. So in this space is also where the artists can gather the local communities together, and so they can have different types of events, and also as dialogue like here, but also as a workshop for them to work on art together. So art is no longer just a personal thing, but it can be a collective effort that makes arts together, and that's make us very excited about working with different local story. And this is what we call what we name as Harbor Kiosk. It's a small kiosk next to the harbor at the Avenue of Star. So we actually created a transformable kiosk, which we make it symbolizing the action movie that is what Hong Kong is famous for. And so it also reacts to the harbor waves, that it actually wave throughout the day to react to the beautiful harbor of Hong Kong. And we also use sustainable wood as the material for creating this harbor kiosk. This sustainable wood came from the Southeast Asia region, and we choose this in particularly of its durability to the harbor wave, to the salty harbor wind, and then it's also quite sustainable under the harsh sun of Hong Kong. And because Hong Kong also have a lot of typhoon seasons, so we have to make sure that the structure can actually survive through the typhoon. Actually, at this time, Hong Kong is being hit by a strong typhoon. And then it has already stand through like more than 10 typhoons already. So and it has very little maintenance. So as Joyce has said, we think that the design that can last, that can be durable, is actually very important. I'm also feeling very sad that some of our designs get ripped apart after a while if the business cannot survive, or if the city has changed their plans. So we always want to create things that last. I think the next project I want to talk about will be the Tea Cafe. It's a very special cafe which actually came after the demolition of a pier in Hong Kong. So this pier was demolished because the government wanted to build a new highway. And luckily, we got an opportunity to salvage these big pieces of vanderwood, which has been in the harbor for more than 50 years. So part of it is very rotten, and part of it is actually still very intact. Luckily, our client is the client who managed the landfill as well, so they can stop this wood going to the landfill and allow us to use this wood in a cafe that they run. So our client is the Environmental Protection Department. They want to have a cafe that actually use this wood, and so we use this material to actually preserve the wood and create new furniture out of it. So in the process, it's actually very hard to create very transparent cubes that preserve the wood. So and a lot of times it's become very brown and yellowish. So we actually add some blue dye to it and create this beautiful green color. So, and we call it harbor cube, as if we are putting these cubes back to the harbor water. And so what we are doing here, we found that we are not only preserving the wood as the material, but it's also preserve a lot of collective memories, especially for people from the older generation. When the city did not have any metro transit. They actually use the pier every day to cross the harbor. So it's very meaningful to a lot of people in the older generations. And through designing this simple cafe, these furniture, we are preserving a memory, a collective memory of the entire generations. So we think that it's very successful, and we're very happy to have that client commissioning this job.
Thank you. Joyce, also an idea about locality and how you use local maybe influences or materials, or how you...
Yeah, I mean, terrazzo has been a very dear material to our studio. We featured it in one of our projects because it's a very authentic material to Hong Kong. It's a material that is used in a lot of tenement buildings in Hong Kong, so it has a very authentic Hong Kong story to it. So I think a lot of our work is to think about conscious design. It's really bringing attention to materials that were previously overlooked, or materials that were seen as pedestrian, but actually, when featured or worked in a certain way, when held in your hands, and in this example here, we've even created ice cream. You know, the fact that you can tangibly hold terrazzo and taste it, it gives new meaning to material that was, again, a dying sort of trade in Hong Kong. And it's concrete based. It's marble chips that have been crushed and then sculpted into this material. And we actually brought this cart. It traveled to different parts of the world, and we were able to actually scoop ice cream and bring together communities that followed this cart. We collaborated with an ice cream shop in London called Jalupo on these different flavors. And I think design is also bringing together people who want to see things differently. And actually, just adjacent to Otto's coffee pavilion, we created this pavilion here, which is also made of terrazzo. And it's actually a pavilion that will travel around as well. And for that, we had ice cream, we actually had cookies and cupcakes. And the idea is you can actually use a material that's been forgotten and even dying out, and have it be something that people perceive as luxury as well, as something that's desirable. And we've done that with many of our projects as well, yeah.
And for this kind of techniques that are somehow also very old, do you collaborate with local craftspeople, or do you do your own research?
Yes. So there's actually not that many people who can do these forms in Hong Kong.
They're hard.
So they might be reluctant, to be honest, in the beginning to do it, to kind of push the boundaries of what they can do. But actually, once we find that once we get past that stage, they're much more receptive the next time, because you've worked on something together and kind of proven them wrong, you know, it is possible. Then the next time makes it that much easier, yeah.
And somehow I think it's also a way to revive a craft for younger generations as well, because once you start rolling the ball and people are getting more acquainted with it again, there's more of an interest again somehow.
No, definitely. I think there's a lot of impact that you don't see. It's not tangible within the design itself, but the influence that something like this can have is incredible. This is actually another project where, similarly, the contractor was not happy with me in the beginning. I wanted him to use existing disposed copper pipes. And he asked me, this is ammo in Hong Kong, it's in an ammunition storage old facility, which is in the Asia Society. It's a beautiful building by Todd Williams and Billy Tian. And we had the pleasure of doing this restaurant inside. And the contractor looked at me and just said, why don't we just make it out of new copper? And why do we have to use this copper pipes anyway to make light fixtures? It's not something that we can do. So we actually did the prototyping together. We went to the plumbing store together. And I think, again, it's an example of being able to feature material that, you know, previously seemed pedestrian. It was a plumber's toolkit at best. But now it's still an ammo in Hong Kong, you know, 10 years later. And there's something to it. Yeah.
No, it looks amazing. I also wanted to talk a little bit about what you are both showing here in Paris during Maison&Objet and Paris Design Week. Otto, maybe you'd like to start because you have the pavilion here at the fair.
Yeah, so this is the pavilion that we have at Hall 6, J22. So it is a pavilion dedicated to Hong Kong designs. So we use the idea of Hong Kong, creating Hong Kong Harbour, because we think that the Victoria Harbour in Hong Kong is the most preserved nature in Hong Kong, in the middle of the city, which offers us a beautiful skyline. So by having to build this pavilion, we have proposed to use bricks as a modular system to actually build this pavilion. And these bricks are also built out of the craftsmanship studio. So in this design, we actually use water bottles collected from the 10 different secondary schools in Hong Kong and shred these water bottles into pieces, small fragment pieces. And then we also put some lateral dye to it and creating what we call the filaments. So these kind of filaments will be used for our 3D printer to actually print these bricks by bricks. So as what Joyce has said, the craftsmanship is getting more and more important in Hong Kong, and then we are both interested in preserving the almost lost craftsmanship from the older generation. At the same time, we are very interested in the new craftsmanship using digital fabrication, using new machines of making these things. And because we are bringing this pavilion from Hong Kong to Paris, we want to be very conscious on sustainability. And that's why we create these bricks that are not only lightweight, but also stackable and also durable and waterproofed, so that we can bring them to Paris and create this pavilion. And more than that is, we find that the translucency of these bricks actually very interesting. It creates many different moments in a pavilion that allows you to actually create a kind of enclosed environment for the pavilion, but at the same time, it's very open, very transparent to people outside. So when people walk by, they're actually becoming more interested in what's actually inside because they can see a little bit of it. So, and we actually use the same technique and further explore it to create another product that we are developing, which is called the Light. It is a table lamp, and also it has a version of a suspended lamp. It also came from the same 3D printing technique, and we use the same similar technique to actually create these pendant light from water bottles collected from schools as well. So I hope to invite all of you to J22 at Hall 6 to see not only the pavilion, but also the 10 different designers, which has their work being exhibited inside this pavilion. So all of this design has addressed a different direction about conscious design. Some of them work with new materials that are recycled, or making use of bio-based materials. And then some of the work actually address the sustainability issues of the cultures of Hong Kong and also Asia. So we think that conscious design is not only just about recycled materials, but it's also about sustaining a larger culture that we're all proud of. Thank you.
Thank you. And Joyce, I know that you have a few things around Paris as well.
Yeah. Actually, we're launching a new rug collection and tapestry and fabrics with a third generation rug producer called Pinton. And tonight we have the launch at Palais de Tokyo, and then tomorrow, actually starting at Rue de Dragon, we'll have the exhibition ongoing on Friday and Saturday as well. So actually, it began with that tapestry I showed at the Magistracy, and I think it goes to show that was our first collaboration and conversation with them, and that has actually evolved into really reinvigorating an older design house like Pinton, who used to make tapestries for the likes of Picasso and Calder, but we wanted to work with them to create something that was appropriate for hospitality use and also residential use, so that it's something that can, again, sustain over time.
Thank you so much. Thank you both. I wanted to open the floor for questions the last 5 minutes in case somebody wants to ask something.
Hi, so I'm a student in interior design, and I'm very interested in circular economy and also everything that has to do with design. So, and that has to do with like thinking the whole project through and also thinking about what is the life after that. So, kind of like, yeah, where you get the resources from, can you like make sure it grows after that, and also about modular design, anything that can be taken apart and then get a new life after. What do you think about that?
I can answer first. So I would take this pavilion as a perfect example for your question. So for this pavilion, we actually obviously built it in modules of bricks. So we can carry them in just a few buses from Hong Kong to here. And after that, we can have different choices. For example, we exhibit this pavilion in Hong Kong, so we have to disassemble here, ship it back to Hong Kong, and assemble again. So there is a second life of it. And then we can choose to have other third life of it, including we can actually pull this apart into bricks again, and then can assemble into many different shapes. Because this is water resistant, this is durable, and this is very long lasting. You know, this is water bottle actually. So it can be moved to a park or a beach, or just even put it inside water, and it will still be very durable for a long time. And if there is no particular use of it, we can also shred it again back to pieces, and then create 3D printing materials again, and 3D print other things. Maybe we can 3D print the lamps again, and then give it and sell it to the households. So we find that the PET, the material that water bottle is made of, is actually a very versatile material, and we think that it's also very easy to collect in recycle bins. I think a lot of countries and cities are doing that very well. I think more designers should be more interested in this material and trying to use it as our interior design as well as architectural design materials, because it can survive in the outdoor environment as well. So I would suggest you to look at PET, but there are also many other materials nowadays getting more mature for being used as a recyclable or recycled material.
Joyce, I don't know if you...
Yeah, I was going to say, Otto's, I think it's super beautiful the way it transmits the light, and I think in our practice, some of the specifications that we make for hotels, for example, there's more and more products out there now that utilize plastic bottles, for example, and they can be acoustically, for example, performing and doing actually more than what something that is less sustainable. So I think there's definitely a much larger market and demand for these items here. And I would say also hotels that we work with, hotel brands and chains, brand books, for example, are getting much more adamant about we're only going to source within this amount of circumference. Everything we make has to be made within this square mile radius, for example. So I think the collective effort, this culture that Otto describes is really important because it reinforces each other. And I think you can do that through materiality or the way that you process something to help it be more sustainable, yeah.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay. Well, thank you both so much for this wonderful conversation, and it has been very insightful, and we'll head to see the pavilion now.
Welcome to J22. And where's your carpet?
Yes, starting tomorrow at Rue de Dragon at the Cahiers d'Art Gallery. Please come see our Pinton tapestry and rugs. Thank you.
Hope to see you all. Thank you. Merci.
Thank you so much.